That's right, Skrillex, Bad Noise, Former Beggars, LA.
What's up guys, this is Kyle Fonger from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor. And today, we're going to be looking at the eGo 1 CLR rebuildable atomizer. Right now I got a kind of goofy setup going here. I got the eGo 1 on my Sigelli 150 watt. It's coming in right at 0.3 ohms and I got her at 37 watts. One of the issues with the eGo 1 was that sometimes you could get a dry hit. It's an awesome device, but it just doesn't wick as efficiently as it should, especially when using a max VG juice. With this CLR rebuildable head, you'll see in the close-ups there is plenty of room for wicking and juice to make its way to the coil. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the CLR head, show you how to take it apart, how to build in it, and then I got a special treat for you guys. We're going to be putting a nickel build in the eGo 1. So we're going to be running this on my Hana Slim and doing temperature control. And the nickel build we're going to be putting in this is going to be a triple twisted 30 gauge Ni200. Optimal surface area, great flavor. We're going to be doing about 4 to 5 wraps, so it should be coming right in around 0.06 ohms. That's kind of your sweet spot. Once you hit 0.05, you're going to get an atomizer too low, or ohms too low reading on your Hana. So we want to stay above that 0.05. Alright, well enough talking about the CLR head. Let's go ahead and cut to the close-up and rebuild this sucker. Alright, so let me go ahead and pop my eGo 1 tank off of this giant Sigelli. So here's the CLR head for the eGo 1. As you can see, there's 2 slots that your wicking just sticks out of. So rather than with the Limo or the Delta 2 where you have 2 channels that you want to meet the top of with your cotton, with the CLR head, you just have your cotton stick out the sides and then this top piece screws down. So let me go ahead and take that off. So there's our coil. And as you can see, you just wick like you normally would, and you pop the top on and just trim the sides. Now, unlike some other RBA atomizers, you don't have posts to screw your wires into, but rather it's going to be like the mellow design. So you're going to have your positive lead on the inside of this O-ring and the negative lead on the outside. So let me go ahead and take this apart. Just going to pull out the bottom pin, and you're going to take off your O-ring. So the coil I just had in here is 6 wraps with 22 gauge Canthal. This is coming in right around 0.3 ohms. Now let's just throw this to the side, and we're going to be doing a nickel build. So I like to just take a little isopropyl alcohol and clean the rubber gasket, the bottom positive pin, and the top cap, just so they're not slimy. If it's your first time building on it and everything's dry, you don't have to worry about that. Alright, so today we're going to be using triple twisted 30 gauge Ni200 wire. And to create this, all you have to do is take 3 strands of wire, twist them on one end, and hold them with a pair of pliers while you spin them on a drill with the other end. And you can just go until the nickel breaks. Then you want to find sections that don't have any little nubbies, because sometimes the wire won't spin perfectly even. So you want to make sure the section that you're using is perfectly even, that you don't have any little knots or kinks in it. So we're going to be wrapping around a 2mm screwdriver today, and we're just going to do 5 wraps. And we want these pretty spaced, but you don't want them too spaced that they're not going to fit in your CLR head or that they touch the sides. So you want to make sure that they're going to fit in there, but there's enough space in between them that they're not touching. So all we're going to do is wrap around this. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. then I'm going to take these leads and pull them straight. Alright, so once you got your 5 wraps, your twisted nickel, you're going to slip these leads right into the top of your atomizer head. Slip those right through. Alright, then your screwdriver bit will actually fit right in between those wicking slots. We're going to go ahead and leave our screwdriver in, and then what you want to do, take your rubber gasket and slip it over one of those leads, leaving the other lead outside of it. So it should look like this. One lead coming out the bottom, one lead coming out the outside. Then you want to take that bottom positive pin and you're going to pop that right into the O-ring. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my screwdriver now. So that positive lead that's on the inside of the gasket, you want to make sure that's inside, right next to your pin. So there's a little cutout there that your wire will line up right with. And then your negative lead that's on the outside, just want to kind of fold that right over. Alright, once you got your bottom pin in and your leads are in the right place, you're going to go ahead and take your wire cutters and clip these. Start by clipping the negative lead and try and clip it as close as you can to those threads, or else if it goes past the threads it'll actually make contact and cause a short. So one thing we might have to do is kind of press it in towards the gasket. Alright, then we'll go to the positive lead, trim that guy. And nickel's so soft it doesn't take much to break these. So there's our twisted nickel build. Alright, so now we're ready to wicker. Alright, so I'm using Japanese organic cotton called Shishido. So I cut a narrow strip because we wrapped on a 2mm screwdriver bit, so we don't need a lot of cotton for this. And with nickel, we also don't want so much cotton that it pulls our coil around and messes it up. So we want to be really gentle when we're wicking nickel coils. And even that's going to be a little much. It's kind of thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thin that a little bit. And then I always like to taper one end. Makes it easier to slip it in. Then you're going to go ahead and spin your cotton. And then just going to pass it right through those slots and through our coil. And kind of spin your wick as you pull to keep it from catching. Alright, once that's in, kind of pull back and forth a little bit. Alright, then you're going to go ahead and take your top cap and screw it on. And once that's on, you're going to trim these wickings right next to the edge of the metal. Just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pop her back in the base. And then we'll take some juice and primer before we put it on the tank. So it should be straight, just like that. Alright, so I'm going to juice those outer wickings. And then I'm going to put a little juice right on the coil in there. Kind of let it absorb a little more. With nickel, you don't have to be so concerned with getting a dry hit, because nickel won't fire if it's dry. One of the advantages of using temperature control. But it's always nice to have a juiced coil. I'm going to fill up my tank with the same Vapor Hut rope bomb. Stuff tastes like nerds, it's amazing. Alright. Go ahead and pop her on. And I'm going to put her on my Hana Slim. my V4s, 0.06, perfect. Go ahead and get her into temperature control, 5 clicks, hold up and down, hold to change temp. I'm gonna go to 450 degrees, 5 clicks to unlock. Now I'm gonna let it register. Sometimes it takes a minute or so for the DNA 40 chip to read the atomizer that you have in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and let her do that and then take a few puffs. So after it's paired up, it did drop to 0.05, and so every now and then I do get that ohms too low sign, but it seems to be working great. I mean, she's putting out, it's a 0.05 ohms right now, which seems to be the minimum that the Hana will read. So if it flexes and contracts at all, you might see the ohms too low sign, but you just give it a second and it'll work just fine. Maybe I needed an extra wrap or so, but it's kind of tight in that eGo 1 CLR. So 5 wraps seem to be the maximum. So for the first time ever, to my knowledge, we have a twisted nickel build in the eGo 1 sitting on the Hana Slim. Flavor is awesome. The thing I love about this is that the eGo 1 is kind of notorious for getting a dry hit. If you hork on this thing too long, it won't wick properly. So with that nickel, you eliminate that completely because the DNA 40 is not gonna fire if it's dry. So this is just an awesome combination. You got the eGo 1 with a nickel build and throw it on a DNA 40. Vapor Shark, Hana, whatever you got. Just awesome. It's working great. It's at 0.05 ohms, and when I first started reading that, it was saying ohms too low, but now that I've gotten it going, I'm at 450 degrees, 20 watts, and she's running perfectly. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial on how to rebuild the eGo 1 CLR rebuildable atomizers, this time with temperature control. This has been Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor. Have a great day, guys.